Hello, people. It is episode 30 of the Monday Night Review Club. We've done this for 30 episodes now. Don't you guys feel accomplished for something that in your life?
Yes,
Nothing?
Yes.
it's the only thing I do consistently besides go to work.
Hey, there's something. There's a routine. How you guys doing? We're still a little beat up from last night's 4-hour Oscar stream. That was an experience in and of itself. We basically just sat back and watched everything, everywhere, all at once, win all of the awards simultaneously. But we're back here tonight for a good old fashioned movie review show. We got 3 movies on tap for this week. I think everyone reviewed their own film, and maybe we didn't watch some of the other ones. So I'll be very, very interested to see how this goes tonight. But I got my good buddy Rob Motto here tonight. How you doing, Rob?
Good. I actually the Oscars went by pretty quick for me because for me anyway was
Don't
pretty
remember.
drunk. So yeah, the last 3 hours went by pretty quick. And it was like, oh yeah, hey, it's over, and we're saying bye, and okay, the party's over. Okay, sweet.
Yeah. And then down here, also hungover question mark. If it's Rick Aragon, how you doing?
No, I'm pretty good. I only had two, so I was good. Yeah, it went well.
Only a couple of beers, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you weren't downing wine like a 40-year-old white mom like Rob over there was last night.
Yeah, I was gonna say I also had two bottles of wine. So it was yeah, that was a lot. I don't drink very often.
Yeah, and neither do
Well,
I.
it showed. But last night was the Academy Award show, and look, pretty much the only real takeaway from last night's show is that Hollywood really wants you to believe that Everything Everywhere All at Once was the best movie that came out last year, above all else. And there was notes going into the show that Tom Cruise decided he wasn't going to show up last night. I guess he heard that, well, they're not going to honor my movie, so what am I here for? Same thing with James Cameron, who also decided that he was not going to show up last night. So you can argue that on a couple of fronts that those two were the most impactful movies of 2022, and for them to not get essentially any recommendation from the Academy just kind of show you like, where we were going there last night. But the big surprise everyone was talking about was Jamie Lee Curtis winning Best Supporting Actress for Everything Everywhere All at Once, and I still today say that she was barely in that movie and somehow she beat the woman who was actually the supporting character in that film. But I guess that's just the way that things roll now in modern day Hollywood. What were some of your takeaways from last night's show, just as far as kind of like the winners and like the kind of the overall vibe of the night? I know Whitlock went on a big rant about what's her name, Angela Bassett, kind of giving the stink eye because she didn't win the Academy Award last night. They didn't even like react like at all. She was like, "Really, I didn't win." While meanwhile, like Jamie Lee Curtis is just like completely freaking out. But what was your takeaway from last night, Rob?
I mean, that category was somewhat competitive because it truly nobody knew Jamie Lee Curtis was going to win. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
was like Carrie Condon was the signal favorite because of previous wins, I believe. I don't know if it was SAG or what specifically it was. And then a lot of people wanted, what's her name, Stephanie Sue
Yeah,
from
yeah.
Everything Everywhere All at Once to win it. I mean, it was just a
Arguably had a better case than Jamie did, but
yeah, and I didn't really like any of the performances personally, but it was just a really competitive field. And sometimes it's just about your campaign. It's not even about the performance. It's about, what you do behind the scenes to try to get, somewhat favoritism among
yeah.
the academy. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into these choices. I know that we it's easier to kind of chalk it up to a black and white or a primary and a sort of minor like material that
Yeah.
comes up with these decisions, but it's it's complicated, it's political, it's a lot of shit, and maybe they just wanted to give Jamie Lee Curtis a legacy Oscar or a career pat on the back kind of
Seems
thing.
like a very odd place to do it, though. But I did hear a lot of people making that argument last night that hey, we got to give her one before she dies. So here you go.
And then Brendan Fraser winning, was fine. Especially, you read the stories that get posted today about like how he's a good guy and I forget what it was, like the journey to the center of the earth. He made sure that the crew got paid, or at
Yeah,
least was part of the reason they got paid. And that's a really good story. I just, I didn't think the performance was the best of the year, certainly in that category. And I liked Austin Butler's performance in Elvis better, but I think the Academy went the nostalgia route with Fraser and then the guy who played Short Round, winning. So, and hey, good for them, get their moment in the sun, but it's going to I don't think either one of those actors has any staying power in terms of future roles. I
Enjoy it
wish them the
now, like yeah.
best, but I just don't see it.
No, I pretty much agree with Rob. I mean, I'm trying to think. Brendan Fraser, like he's like what 50 something. So I'm thinking, what other movies can he do versus Austin Butler, who's going to be a co-star in probably one of the big movies of this year,
Yeah.
Dune Part Two. And when it comes to Jamie Lee Curtis, yeah, I like to think it's probably a de facto lifetime achievement award. She's very well liked by her fellow actors, so I think they just rewarded for her. I feel bad in a way, anyway, for Angela Bassett because I like her as an actress. I just hated this performance. I hated this movie, and this isn't the movie that I wanted her to win, especially because basically she would have won, in my opinion, for an Oscar clip. And I'm not surprised. There really weren't any surprises this year because all the winners were either expected or were like in contention. They weren't, completely out of left field. If
Yeah.
like Andrea Riseborough had won, that would have been a shocker. If Bill Nighy had won, that would have been a shocker. But no, there was nothing. Even in the smaller or the less known categories, I think pretty much everyone got what they thought there was going to happen. I mean, some of the choices were not be the ones that I would have wanted, but yeah, in terms of the winners, really no big surprises in terms of the show itself. I'm glad I really didn't pay that much attention. 'Cause,
You mean
yeah,
Diarrhea Yogurt Trans Mom hasn't already gone full dementia yet?
Activia. So, I mean,
So here's a couple of things. I wanted to play this one really quick here because we mentioned this. I think when we talked about the movie like last year, I don't think we did an official review of it, but we have talked about this. This movie is essentially one where you're either gonna love it or you're gonna hate it. There really isn't no in between. Like you're gonna feel like the 50-50 about the film. You're either gonna say, okay, that's a pretty entertaining movie, or it's really fucking dumb. And I don't object with anyone feeling one way or another, but I want to play this quick clip of Jason Whitlock talking about the film last night because I guess he was intrigued to go watch it himself, and then yeah, it's probably a mistake on his part. So
the movie that got the most hype, praise, and awards last night, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. What's this woman, this 60-year-old woman, Michelle Yeoh, got Best Actor or Best Actress in a leading role. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once won Best Picture. My God. Because it won last night, I watched the movie this morning. It is one of the dumbest, worst movies in the history of America, in the history of the planet. I don't know where it's made. It's featuring a lot of Asian people. It's written by, what do they call these guys? The Daniels? Two dudes named Daniel. Their alternative lifestyle. It won because of this whole victimhood mentality that everyone's buying into and Hollywood is promoting. Oh, the Asians and the LGBTQ and the trans crowd and the drag queens have all been marginalized. Let's give them awards. If there's someone that understood this movie, please email me.
yes,
Please email, and I'll have you on the show this week to explain why this was a good movie.
So, Rob, do you want to be the contrarian just so you can get on the show, or you just want?
No, because see, I wouldn't even attempt to defend that movie because I hate it so much. I mean, it's such a clear example of like not being about anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And whatever creative nihilism, if you can even if that it's an oxymoronic
They
term.
try to say that it's absurdism, but it
Yeah.
just feels like a new neo nihilist film. So
And it's funny because like don't get me wrong, there's some aspects to their previous movie Swiss Army Man that are whatever you want to call them, touchy feely, sentimental, whatever. But I do think it's a really good journey from start to finish because it's about a guy who's like basically dead inside and like fighting to live. It's a very
Yeah.
like positive message, even if it's an absurdist kind of take. I didn't feel that at all with Everything Everywhere All at Once. I didn't feel like a deep human connection to the movie, where I did with Swiss Army Man. So no, I wouldn't. I would not go on Jason Whitlock's show to defend Everything Everywhere All at Once, even just to get the publicity.
Would you, Rick? This is the hill you're
I,
gonna die on.
no, it's not the hill I'm willing to die on, but I actually liked Everything Everywhere All at Once, and I got a slightly different idea. I didn't think it was this nihilistic film. I thought it was a film about trying to find some kind of meaning in the life that you live in right now. I don't know why he's so upset. I think there are dumber movies that have won Best Picture.
Like
Uh,
what?
Cavalcade, Out of Africa, The Shape of Water, A Beautiful Mind, The English Patient. Uh, those are all pretty bad. Those are films that I wouldn't watch again.
So hold on to that for a second, because I do want to give you just a quick list of. Let's go back at least 12 years here for pictures that have won Best Pictures, and these are pictures that the Academy has agreed is the best movie of the year by only their admission. Right. Last night we had Everything Everywhere All at Once. Last year it was a film called Coda, if you remember that film.
Yes, I do.
2020 was Nomadland. 2019 was Parasite, which is just absurd considering how many good movies there were that year.
Yeah.
Green Book was 2018. 2017 was The Shape of Water. 2016 was Moonlight. 2015 was Spotlight. 2014 was Birdman. 2013, 12 Years a Slave. 2012, Argo. 2011, The Artist. And then 2010, The King's Speech. Now, you can even go back a few years after that. There's some questionable picks, but I can honestly say, like, the last, ever since what, Birdman, like, I look at a lot of these pictures that have won Best Film, and I'm like, really? This is the best you guys could do?
I mean, look. I think movies in general haven't been very good, but in 2019, the fact that Parasite won,
Yeah.
or even 2018 or 2017, which were pretty good years too, the movies that ended up winning, it was just like, really, like this is what you think is the best, you know?
Yeah.
And there were interesting movies to come out those years. I mean, I still have my best of lists on Letterboxd or whatever to go back to and reference, but
Letterboxd is a fun place.
yeah, I know. Not a great app in terms of content moderation,
Yeah.
but yeah, I just think Hollywood needs to get back to, I because the Academy is one thing, and then Hollywood as an industry is another. So
Yeah.
I personally think better movies need to be made, but the Academy seems like they're hellbent on celebrating the most boring, bland, personality-free movies that have some kind of social message because they're narcissistic enough to think that they need to lecture us on how to be as a society.
Like I said, I do find it very interesting that the whole narrative of this show is what a win is this for Asian people. The Asian community are finally got the big one. It's like, didn't Parasite just win a few years ago?
Yeah.
Like, or is it because they're actually Korean, that movie doesn't count? Is that what you guys are telling me now?
Yes, that's a different Asia, apparently. No.
Apparently, right? And keep in mind, that film that year beat Ford versus Ferrari, The Irishman, Joker, 1917, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Beat all of those films in the same year.
Well, I mean, sorry, I did put Parasite in my top 10, and I think I named it my number two. I did put The Irishman ahead of it. And yeah, I thought I thought it worked well. But again, it's strange. I have not seen that movie since I saw it with. Did I see it with my Democratic Socialist friend? Well, I saw it with someone. But I haven't seen that movie since. And all of the other best pictures that you listed, yes, some of those are very Oscar baity, like The King's Speech, The Artist. Those are, artsy films that the Academy
12 Years a
would love.
Slave.
12 Years of Slave, yeah, that was it wasn't quite torture porn, but nobody's going to watch that again unless it's for like history class. It's not something that you watch for entertainment value. Or certainly, I hope people don't watch it
So
for
Rick, I
entertainment value.
just a little sidebar here. So
Yeah,
the only time I've seen 12 Years a Slave, for some reason I bought it on like Apple TV the year it came out, to watch it before the Oscars, and I ate a 1,200 milligram Oreo THC brownie. I do not remember one single frame of that movie, so um, I'll have to rewatch it
Were you just
sometime.
in the Shadow Realm the entire time? Is that where you
Yep,
were?
can't remember, just completely blank.
yeah. Well, and yeah, I liked Argo. I think I liked it more than I should have. It's worth revisiting. But no, I mean, some of those Nomadland I thought was bad. It was boring. I mean, I don't want to see this woman looking for work and like defecating into a was it a pail in her
Yeah.
bus or in her van. That's not entertainment. And
When I saw Coda one last year, I was like, I literally forgot all about that movie. It's like I still don't even know what that film was about. And that was the movie that just won last year.
Like a
actually,
deaf family or something. I don't know.
Code yeah, well, Coda is a remake of a French film,
Oh, that
and
narrows it down.
yeah, and it's about the daughter who's the only one who can hear in a family that is deaf except for her. And of course, you've got the pressure. No surprise, though her family's deaf, she of course wants to sing, and there's a pressure for her to stay and kind of be their translator and work on their fishing ship and versus pursuing her own dreams. Look, maybe I'm just someone who gets caught up in things, but I actually liked Coda, and I did get emotional at the end. I think you'd have to be a pretty hard-hearted person not to feel something. So, which is why neither of you would like it.
Sleepiness. I
Uh,
mean, that's a feeling.
Well,
yeah,
my brother's deaf, so any movie that centers, around deafness or deaf characters, I just kind of look for, kind of exploitative tactics.
Yeah. You
But
mentioned this with like Creed 3 last week, right?
well, that and what did the movie what won? What did was it Riz Ahmed? It was the other guy who won for Sound of Metal. That was
well,
Oh,
terrible.
yeah.
well, he didn't
God,
he
what
didn't
was
win
it?
for Sound of Metal, but that was Riz Ahmed.
Yeah, I hate that movie. Like I hate that movie so much because it's like you're being offered the option to hear again, to be able to get a cochlear implant, and deciding that you don't want it, or that you're better than it, or that you're going to proudly live with your disability. It's like it's a slap into the face to people who can't afford that. But whatever. It's a movie, it's a character. I just thought it was an incredibly stupid place to take that.
I no, again, I actually liked Sound of Metal.
Hmm.
I particularly liked Paul Raci. I think he should have won Best Supporting Actor. And just for record, I've never seen Children of a Lesser God, though I've always wanted to, but I just never find it. Uh, but some of those films, again, when I think about a Best Picture winner, I think, is this going to stand the test of time? Is this something that people are going to watch 5 years, 10 years from now? I don't know if people 5 years or 10 years from now are really going to watch Birdman. I've never heard anyone besides you guys. I've never heard anyone talk about watching
Well,
it again.
hold on just a second here, because you're talking about people are going to watch these movies 5 to 10 years from now. We just mentioned that the movie just won last year. No one's even remembered that movie even came out. It's gonna be like, oh yeah, that movie did come out a
I
year ago.
remember it. I
Oh,
remember it.
okay, well you remember it, but nobody else does. So
Yeah.
All right. Well,
it's
I
like,
mean, but then again, it barely won last year, so I have to give it some time. I just can't say after 1 year.
yeah,
But I mean, look. You've got films like the original All Quiet on the Western Front, Lawrence of Arabia, uh, my favorite Casablanca, Godfathers Part One and Two. Those are films that are still being watched. Nobody is watching something like Cavalcade or Cimarron or the Broadway Melody. God help the person who actually would enjoy watching Out of Africa. I mean, really, you would need psychological help if you really thought that that was a good film to watch over and over. So we'll see. I don't know if people are going to keep watching any of these more recent ones. I can't imagine anyone watching Nomadland. When it won, I wasn't surprised, but I didn't think it should have because I saw it once I think I saw it in the screener, and yeah, that's it. I have no desire to see it again. Sometimes just these things win, and
I
you
mean,
never hear from them again.
if you look at, I guess you could say ever since the turn of the 2020s here, it's been a very low bar as far as quality films go. Even the ones that are like the highly praised movie, it's just like they don't really have any juice to it, like whatsoever. I mean, like I said, the only movie that I would have gone with is probably what Top Gun and maybe the Banshees of Inisherin. But I mean, outside of that, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of films that I would like really go at bat for. And then even then, with this year, it was still better than what we had last year when we were nominating films like Don't Look Up and King Richard and West Side Story. So I mean, it hasn't been a very high bar for Hollywood the last few years.
Oh yeah, those films that you mentioned. I know someone. I took my Democratic Socialist friend to see A West Side Story. She had never seen the original, and she liked this one. And I said, "Well, I don't know why, but I guess she's never seen well because she's never seen the original." King
I
Richard.
oops,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead. No,
No,
I
I
just
was
wanted to
gonna.
say I saw the original West Side Story last year, and I thought it was the dance fighting was completely ridiculous. And I love Robert Wise, like I love his other movies, but I'm just not a musical guy.
Yeah, but you could credit the dance fighting to Jerome Robbins more to Robert Wise,
Yeah.
and they are the first directing duo to win Best Director. Now the Daniels have joined them, and I don't know what he's going on about LGBT with them. I don't know if they are. I don't care.
I think
Uh,
they made it pretty clear that they were
oh
gay
really?
last
I'm
night. Yeah.
oblivious. I'm
Oh, because they
delightfully
said,
oblivious.
what did they say? Like, drag is not a threat to anyone or
Yeah.
something. And I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, I didn't notice. I tell you, I didn't hear any of their speeches.
Well, I think we were all like finally like, okay, we can like end the show now. By the
Yeah,
time they started talking, so I ain't mad a little bit to do with it though. So I mean, yeah, look, that's the run of Hollywood now. So now that the award season is over, these movies are gonna be back in theaters for at least a week or two, try to get some of that Oscar bait money. But yeah, after that, I don't think anyone will be talking about any of these films moving forward here. But let me ask you guys before we start talking about our first movie of the night. Is that we're about what 2.5 months into to the new year, and it doesn't really feel like anything has really popped out as far as films go. So, where would you rank the start of this year versus the start of last year? Does it feel like that it's slightly worse or on par, or what do you think, Rob?
I actually think it's better. I know that there are. I do have 3 movies already on my worst movies of 2023 list, so that doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
However, I will say that a lot of stuff has just been okay or not that bad, which is an improvement over the early part of last year because I just felt like there was nothing. Like I didn't even want to watch so, and I actually do. I almost went to see 3 movies this weekend, and I would have if I would, didn't have to work around someone else's schedule, but that's fine. But no, it's like I'm excited to get back to the theater. Like I'm excited to see John Wick 4. Not so much about the Shazam movie this weekend, but I feel a different level of optimism than I did last year. So even if like there's been crap, I at least have seen stuff I've liked. I liked Infinity Pool. I liked Megan enough. I liked Knock at the Cabin, even if it had issues. I liked, the Christian Bale movie that I guess was released last year, but didn't get released until this year. So and there's stuff coming up that I'm looking forward to see. So it's not as bad as other years have been. So I'm cautiously optimistic right now.
About you, Rick? Do you agree?
well, I've pretty much blacked out last year. I really don't remember the early part of 2022, so I can't say whether it's an improvement or not. There have been some films that I've actually liked. I liked Megan. I liked Jesus Revolution, and some that I've tolerated that I thought, well, I could live with this. But there have been some really bad ones like Magic Mike's Last Dance, House Party. It was like I haven't done enough to be punished with that. But no, this year I think it's slightly better because there have been films that I've gone in and said I actually enjoyed this. I did not hate it. So I'm going to give this a mild improvement over last year. But again, I'd have to remember what we watched last year because I honestly don't remember like the early films.
Well, why don't you tell us about the movie that you watched this weekend? We're going to start off with you. You're going leading off with the film Champions, which is one of the three new releases that came out this week. Is this one is the Woody Harrelson? I guess you can call it comedy. It's kind of hit or miss with the laugh style, but well,
Dramedy?
yeah, that's probably more accurate. So
Yeah.
I'll let you let the everyone know what that film was all about. Your thoughts about it?
All right. Well, it's about Marcus, who is this G League uh, assistant coach for, I believe, the Des Moines team,
Mhm.
and
Okay,
he
real quick before you start, just hold
yeah.
that thought. They kept saying J League in the movie, right? And I was
Mhm.
like, are they supposed to say G League, or does he just don't have the rights to say G League, so they're saying J League?
I think it was a joke because they're like, I didn't know a J League existed. Like, I think that was part of it because it was
Okay.
like, it's like he's associated with the franchise, but it's, 5-6 layers below the NBA.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Well,
continue, Rick.
I probably would have missed that because I knew what they were talking about. I just did not know exactly what it was called. So anyway, he gets into a tussle with his boss, and they give him the option. Oh yeah, and there's also a drunk driver. He's a drunk driver, so he has the option. I think 18 months in prison or 90 days community service. He takes community service, and he has to coach this team of special needs uh, minors or adults, well, a group of special needs, and lead them to the championship while romancing the sister of one of those special needs players whom he had a previous one night stand with. And yeah, that's it. That's a plot. That's a plot for a 2 hour plus film.
Also,
Yeah.
I take it from your tone that you didn't exactly enjoy certain aspects of this movie.
Yeah, that was one of them. Yeah, that was. There was no reason for this movie to have been 2 hours long.
Well, and Bobby Fairley, who directed this, did something similar. I think the Fairley brothers both did The Ringer with Johnny Knoxville, which came out, I want to say 2007.
Hmm.
This movie is a much different tone. It's definitely much more human. But that doesn't mean it doesn't have issues with the plot. Like, I felt like Woody Harrelson and Caitlin Olsen kind of kept it afloat for as long as they could without much of a script, without much to kind of go on in terms of their characters and their kind of basic their basic character arcs. So I enjoyed aspects of it, but it just became too cliche ridden. It became um kind of just a bit too simple. And by the end, you're kind of just looking at your phone, waiting for it to be over.
Yeah, well, I'm old school. I was looking at my watch because I tend to turn my phone off when I'm at the theaters, unless I'm completely by myself. Now, here's the thing: in the theater, I was not by myself. This was like a 1 o'clock showing, and I was pretty much surrounded by people. This is also, I think, the first film of this year that I remember where the audience applauded at the end
Uh-huh.
and where I could hear people reacting to the movie. So
Mhm.
obviously, excuse me, obviously the people who watched it really liked it, and it is very cliched. You do expect a lot of the things that happen to happen, but there were elements that I liked. I like the female basketball player who just is so assertive and just talks back to everyone.
Very
Like,
mean, right?
yeah, yeah, she's
Well,
she doesn't take nothing from no one.
did you feel like a lot of the behavior of the, let's just call them developmentally disabled individuals, a lot of it, I felt like the humor was couched in like, I'm not even aware that I have this condition, and that's versus being mean spirited. And that's kind of what I mean, is where this movie has a very different tone to it, where it's like the humor isn't at their expense. It's much more of like, hey, I'm an arrogant, ego-driven coach from this developmental league that's associated with the NBA. I'm trying to get back. I'm trying to get to the NBA, and kind of being humbled by the circumstance that you're in, and kind of seeing like you can really make a difference at any level, and it's a little hallmarky, the way they go about telling the story or showing that transformation is just clumsy and clunky, and it's just not a very good movie. Like I can see that there's more here than 65, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, where it's like I could see the framework of the movie. It just didn't quite come together. It was just very kind of clunky movie experience. But
Well,
I will commend again Harrelson and Olsen for trying to make it work and being charismatic and at least being watchable, but they don't have much to do.
I appreciate the fact that the Alex, the Caitlin Olsen character, is very acerbic and very sarcastic, but she also has that kind of soft side when it comes to Johnny, her brother.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't, excuse me, I didn't quite get that whole thing about him refusing to shower. I mean, I know why. They tell you the movie that he had like he almost drowned,
Mm-hmm.
but that I can only imagine just the stench that that kid would have or that man would have, especially someone that works and has worked at a downtown library and is used and has experienced people who sometimes have a particular odor to them.
They stink.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yes, it's called the Pacific Northwest, Rick. Yeah.
Yeah, so that could be tough, and I don't know if they would have endured it for as long as they did.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, they had to find a way to show his growing as a person, and so what better way than to show slowly, very slowly, sometimes, how he's trying to connect with all these other people. And look, I kind of figured that this is kind of a cliched story. It is going to hit certain beats,
Mm-hmm.
but I went along with it for the longest time. But I kept wondering, when is this going to end? When is this going to end? This movie's again 2 hours long. It shouldn't be 2 hours long.
Yeah.
There was just there's just so many things that I wish they. I mean, I assume that they had like some sort of montage of the team winning or doing more to get up there to Winnipeg. Like, can you wrap this up? I don't need to see you guys going curling. I don't need to see you guys going to the literal center of Canada. And that whole thing with the bus, that whole bus scene, I thought, well, if they could have gotten Alex's Shakespearean van to drive them, why didn't they just get to that first instead of having to go through all that? Because I would have complained if somebody was singing. What was it? Not no, it wasn't "I Get Knocked Down, but I Get Up Again." It was another song that Johnny was singing, and I would have said, this is inappropriate, regardless of whatever of his Down syndrome, because that's not a reason, that's not an excuse, and I hate using that word, but that's not a reason to be belting out a song and bothering other people, and just and also trying to explain to the other person, hey, you can't be talking to the bus driver because he has a job to do. He can't be distracted. He can't carry a conversation.
The one thing that I had issues with too is like while he's doing this they don't really explain how he has money. Like he's not working a job. So is he set because he was a semi-professional coach? Maybe, but
I guess that's
and
what's kind of implied, that he at least had some money from his coaching job left over. Or
and then it's like he's getting offered this job because of his public profile working with these kids. He gets offered an NBA job with, I think, Seattle or something.
Yes, yeah.
And he decides not to take it because it seems exploitative. Using this story, community service to basically take away from some scandal that they're trying to distract the press with. And it was just that just seemed weird and convoluted and like a weird excuse to sort of not take a job that, number one, pays well. It's at the top of your field. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm going to take the moral high ground here. And it's like,
well,
really?
I thought what he could have done is taken the job in Seattle and sponsored the team, because he would have made enough money to keep them financially afloat, and leave his new assistant to coach the team. And I
Yeah.
wondered about that idea. Like, why is this guy pursuing Woody Harrelson? Like, why does he want to be besties with him? There's not much indication that
Oh,
he
you mean the
really
guy
cares.
that still works for the team that's like the
Yeah, the
equipment
Stallions.
manager?
Yeah,
Yeah,
or
who
yeah,
has the connection
with
with
the
Phoenix?
uncle. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and even you have like Cheech Marin, who's the assistant head coach of the
No, no,
of
no,
the kids.
no. He's not. No, he's not the head coach. He's like the direct. Isn't he the director of the community
Well, he's
center?
like an assistant, but he's like an assistant coach to Woody Harrelson when he starts coaching the kids. So,
Oh,
I mean, it's not a big deal. It's not a big detail to get
it's
hung
not a
up
big
on,
plot
but
point. Yeah, you're right.
but what I'm saying is Marin and Ernie Hudson, who's Woody Harrelson's original boss. It's like they drop in to like the plot and then they drop out again. You don't see them for 20-25 minutes, and so it's just like even
Yeah,
the supporting characters feel somewhat threadbare.
yeah. They're just They do just come in when they're needed, or when you need to kind of push the plot forward, but then they disappear. They're not as important. You really could have even combined them into one character if you wanted to. Um, yeah, but I mean, it wasn't terrible, but uh, my problem, one of the big problems I had with it, was the length. I did not see any need for this movie to be 2 hours long. There were many times, um, especially like when they go out, when they get on the bus, and then they have to find the the Shakespearean actress to get her bus, and that was kind of pointless. I mean, we had one scene where I'm trying to figure out what play that was, but there were many times when I kept looking at my watch, going, are we coming closer to the end? Are we coming closer to the end? How is it that this movie's still going on? So that was an issue. Like, there was no need for it. But
One thing that I have to call out, and even though I'm gonna give it some more positive review than you guys do, is that when they go to the little ESPN booth for like the Sports Center segments, I'm thinking to myself, you couldn't find anyone who's slightly better at acting who works at ESPN than Jalen Rose. It's like if Stephen A. Smith wouldn't accept being in this movie, he could have made it a little bit more realistic. Because like, guys, you really have to pretend like you would actually be covering this on like Sports Center. And like Jalen Rose, either a terrible actor, he just completely phoned it in. I was like, really, dude. He had him for two segments too, so that was another cap on this one.
yeah, and yeah, I mean, I give them credit. They introduced that romance plot, and yeah, they didn't have her like fall at his feet. So at least she was able to try to say, yeah, you know what, I can take you or leave you. I don't really, I'm not tied down to you. And she was always just always kind of, not mean, but she was able to just kind of rattle off quips. But what was her name? Not Constanza, Constantina, or whatever. Yeah, I
Mhm.
I don't know. For some reason, when they're at like the major game, and she tells her that it's going to be team only, she's like, if you come in, I'll go me too on your ass, or something like that. I
Yeah.
don't know why I actually found that funny. It was like, oh, are you admitting that just making an accusation is somehow uh, in your power to just accuse someone of doing that? But
I actually think so. This just came up to me in my head. So Woody Harrelson did that SNL monologue a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
and he knew that his movie was coming out, in March. And knowing that this movie plays more to families and people, let's just call it in flyover country, not to disparage, the middle of the United States. Um, I'm just cynically like putting this together where it's like, did he say that to like curry favor with people more likely to be like anti-vax? To boost his, you know what I mean? I don't think it worked. I don't think Champions did very well at the box office, but it just, the cynical part of me like starts thinking stuff like that. But
well, they certainly said it there. I mean, remember the setting. This is mostly set in Des Moines, Iowa.
Iowa, yeah,
So yeah, you can't get more middle of the nation than Iowa. Although Iowa is not by any stretch like a solid conservative state,
right.
like Montana or Idaho.
It's a mix, right? Like,
Yeah, it's pretty much a mix, because Des Moines is probably pretty liberal.
yeah,
But yeah, I didn't know that Des Moines was just such a mecca for basketball. I have to admit. I did. I mean, there were certain parts that I thought were funny, like when he says, "Well, like, what do you want me to do? Like, go all Hoosiers and come up with an inspirational speech, only to do so." There were other elements that, I mean, I don't know if the audience really thought that the the backward basket was going to land. I hope that they weren't going to, because that would have just been really dumb.
It
But
made for a pretty funny ending, though, just for the all this to lead up to guy throwing the basket in and missing terribly. So like,
Well, I'll say this: there was only two other groups in the movie theater with me, and they were both. How do I want to say this? They were both families of people that had Down syndrome. So again, like they enjoyed it. They clapped at the end. It's great. Like I'm happy for them that they have some, as they say, on-screen representation. But yeah, it just like again.
I mean, they had it before. I mean, Seth Rogen has done plenty of movies at this point.
There you go. There you go. You know, and before I make a terrible joke, I'm just moving on. No, and look, I there are aspects of it that I enjoyed. I certainly didn't hate it. But it just had a lot of issues. There were a lot of eye roll moments, you know, when like something's supposed to be sweet or, you know, sentimental or a warm moment for one of the basketball players, but it just wore it wore out its welcome past
well,
the hour and a half mark.
yes, I agree with you on it just going on far longer than it needed to. When I thought about Cheech Marin, he seemed kind of to be like the person who's going to tell you about all these characters, because remember early on he tells you like, well, this person does this person does that.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I do not remember many of their names. I remember Johnny because he was Alex's brother, and Constantina, I think that was her name because it was the only female. Darius, I also remember him.
Mhm.
But apart from that, I couldn't tell you who any of the others were. I could tell you what they did or what they looked like, but not much about who they were. Although I have to admit, when they shake down the restaurateur and she brings in Officer Sanchez, I did chuckle because I just thought that way. I mean, why would he? I mean, obviously he's dumb because he has to answer C, but for some reason I did
that was
find
about
that
as
funny.
close as an Always Sunny bit as you were ever going to get in this entire movie. So yeah.
Yeah. So I did find that funny.
First of all, Smith here saying that the last movie he saw was the Emoji Movie. You could have not picked the worst possible movie to go see. I don't know who told you that would be a good time, but I hope you learned your lesson and you never do that again. And I mean, look, I know you guys are down on a little bit on the lymph side. I can agree as far as that goes too. But I didn't really hate the movie as much as, or I didn't. I just would say hate the movie. I would say I gave it a little more leeway than you guys did. This one for me, I know it's gonna sound a little bit like an insult, but it's really not. It feels like one of those like old Disney Channel original movies, like one of those ones that you will watch like on a Friday night, like when you're
Like Double
at home.
Team, you mean?
Yeah, like
Like
something like that.
Sisters.
Like stepsister from like Planet Weird or something
Yeah.
like that. So, I mean, for me, it was a pretty like lighthearted film. I think it showed like good character all around. It didn't go too far to like just being like crass for the sake of being crass. Like they actually did the characters pretty well on each part. Like leading into the early part of the film, they're telling you right away. It's like, okay, this is all about trying to get Woody Harrelson's character to build better relationships with people, right? Which means that he has to build a relationship with his love interest and build it with these special needs kids as well. I like the kind of the chemistry that they had with like a lot of the kids. Everyone kind of had like their weird little knack, but it didn't like play on too long. Outside of the handful of like the more important characters to the plot, which what I thought was pretty well done. The biggest thing with me for this movie is that it is kind of lighthearted and it's a little too cliched, so it's like I can't really give it like too big of like a praise just based on that, because I mean you pretty much know exactly what you're gonna get. It's no real surprises here. They play everything like pretty much by the numbers, but I think like most audiences are gonna go to this film and they're just gonna be like, oh wow, that was a movie that I like actually enjoyed and I didn't like find like anything wrong with it. So I think given we're at a time where there's not really a whole lot out there for people to go see that they're going to enjoy right now, I actually did like this one more than you guys. I would, if you were to ask for my rating, I'm not sure if Rick's still there, but if you're asking
Yeah,
for
I'm
my
here.
rating, I'd probably give it somewhere as a fair 3.5, 3 out of 5. That's probably be my rating for this film. So, Rick, what would you give Champions?
Well, I think I'm leaving a false impression because I didn't hate this movie. I accepted that it was going to be cliched, and I accepted that it was going to be pretty standard. So I would probably give it a barely passing 3 because yeah, I accepted it for what it was. It wasn't anything like anything really offensive,
Mhm.
and you did get to see um a better portrayal of people with disabilities and Down syndromes, although I do remember that TV show Life Goes On that featured uh, the main character who was a guy with Down syndrome,
Yeah.
and it was in the family drama. So I'm going to give it a 3, especially because I know that the audience around me really liked it, and they thought it was a good film. Everyone I was seeing their reactions. They walked out smiling and happy, so I can't fault it for that. My problem with it is that it was longer than it should have been. So that's the thing that's really holding me back from giving it a higher recommendation. So I'm just going to give it a 3, barely passing, because it wasn't horrible, but just prepare yourselves for a long movie. I just felt it dragged, especially in the last part.
Again, you have no soul. Rob, what did you think of this movie?
Yeah, I landed at 2.5 out of 5. There's definitely an impulse to give it a 3 out of 5 because, again, even if this movie isn't for me, I think that it still does a lot of things right, and it's fairly entertaining, and it doesn't try to shove ideology down your throat. It's pretty much a feel good story of a guy realizing what's important, and yeah, kind of seeing that play out over a 2 hour runtime. I think Woody Harrelson's good. I think Caitlin Olsen's good. I just think that the plot is a bit cliche and a bit, there's just moments that are like, oh, okay, we get it. So that just didn't personally play for me. But I think families will like it. I think people, if you like family oriented movies, this is something to check out. But yeah, I just think there's a few issues with it, which is why I landed at 2.5 out of 5.
What depressed me about this movie, though, is that those basketball players play better basketball than I do, and they obviously get more sex than I do. So that's really depressing. Because
Yeah.
that one guy who, like, he had a threesome, he kept saying, insisting he had 2 girlfriends. It's like, uh, I can't even get anyone to say hello to me. So there you go.
There you go. You can make that a priority in your life, Rick. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We were talking about getting me an OnlyFans, but then they explained what that was.
Yeah, that's not going to be a good investment for you in any way, shape, or form. Well, yeah, so I think that's one of the better films this weekend. So I think we're going to switch over to a film that Rob saw. And this is a film where I heard the reaction to it. Like, I've heard all the reaction, but I'm actually going to go at bat for this film. 'Cause I think I know what the big problem is with this movie, why it disconnected with so many people. But I want to start off with Rob. Before you talk about the film, what did you think this film was going to be before you went into the movie theater?
I kind of thought it was supposed to be like Jurassic Park. Basically like the big dinosaurs chasing Adam Driver around. And obviously as I read more about it, it was like, oh wait, so he's like an astronaut and then it's like as you're watching the movie, you get it. It's like, oh, they landed on Earth before the asteroid hit and killed all the fucking dinosaurs. Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
It's like, and so as I was watching it, I was like, okay, so it's like Star Wars mixed with Jurassic Park, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, except it's not. It's it's literally our planet. So, the movie opens with Adam Driver having a sick daughter and basically having to go off, to go somewhere to retrieve, I guess it's medicine. I guess it's like herbs of some kind, to get her to ensure she doesn't die. And, he crash lands on what's Earth, and he has to basically survive while basically trying to see if there's any survivors from his ship. And in the process learns his his daughter has passed away, and look, the movie at that point kind of becomes like I can't even think of one to reference, but like the Land of the Lost and like basically these fucking B movie like creations from like the 50s and 60s where like claymation dinosaurs chase around the main character. So
The
I
Valley
got
of Wanji.
virtually nothing out of watching this movie. It is it is a completely dead product. It's Adam Driver looking shocked and surprised and kind of being chased around for an excruciating 93-minute runtime. I can't tell you how slow this movie is. You can only experience it for yourself. So I will say that I virtually got nothing good out of this movie watching experience, and I couldn't wait for it to be over.
Okay, so Rick, you didn't see this movie, did you?
Yes, I did actually.
Well, you go ahead and let people know what you thought about the film, and then I'll go in.
This made me think that again. This is one of those movies where I kept thinking, this is like a highlight reel of a TV show that I had never seen, and I'm supposed to try to figure out all these other things. The problem I had, I think I'm more forgiving because it's 93 minutes. But the way I look at it is, it's a sci-fi channel movie that somehow found itself on the big screen. There was one particular special effect when he's running past, getting the dinosaur to chase him to get him to go through the geysers, and I thought, this is so bad. This is really bad work. I feel embarrassed for the people who worked on this, and I'm assuming that they tried to do their best, but it's not very convincing. I actually was a bit confused about the daughter that's on the other planet, because I was like, is he imagining that she died, or did she die already? And then that seemed pointless. That daughter, you don't get the emotional connection because that daughter appears in the
5 minutes. You get
Yeah,
5 minutes of character background.
yeah. And the wife is like, yeah, the wife we completely forgot after they met, or after we see them for the first time. Uh, the way I looked at it is, the reason it's 93 minutes is that so when it plays on like TNT or something, they can fill in the commercials and make it a 2 hour feature. I was I mean, I don't hate Adam Driver. I think that I think he did the best he really could with this, but there were times when I was like, it would have just worked better if you had gone to a completely different planet, or or just come from Earth and somehow landed back in time. I know that's not the most original idea, but it's somehow better than what we got. I give them credit for trying something different. Like, oh, okay, it's going to take place in the past, but it's slightly futuristic. But it just didn't seem to work, because again, I kept thinking, am I supposed to know more than what happened? I thought they were trying to be too. I think I wrote this in my review. They were trying to be too clever by half when it came to the plot. The and Koa, yeah, I mean, why couldn't he just have not had a daughter, or kind of had that kind of protective element? It, it wasn't, no, it wasn't good, but it wasn't. Yeah, maybe I'm more forgiving because it was so short. But I was like, I wanted this kind of just
It
to go
costs
on.
45 million, and I want
That's
to
sad.
know what that is per minute. You know what I mean? The CGI was terrible too. Like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
digital effects and all that was just did not look good.
And I mean, I also tried to give them credit in that Koa didn't speak the same language, because obviously in the past on another planet they speak English, but
It's $484,000 a minute.
for
Jesus.
yeah, I mean, and then you can't really build up the emotional connection with Adam with Mills, I think that's his name, Mills and Koa, you can't build up a connection or feel for Koa who lost her parents.
They don't
Uh,
speak the same language, and yet they're so, I'm sorry, that was so dumb. Hey, like, we're gonna try to talk to each other even though we don't understand at all.
yeah, so that was I mean I tried to give them credit for that. I think I'm probably more forgiving than you were, but I can say that it just wasn't. Again, I felt I was watching the highlight reel for a TV show that I had never that I had never seen before.
Specifically on Fox.
Yeah, or FX.
Yeah.
So it was again, bless Adam Driver. I know. I mean, he's got to eat. He's got to have some sort of income. He can't rely on that emo Vader money forever. But he's much more skilled, I think, as an actor to be in something like this. And it's sad that his career has gotten him to 65. I don't know if Rob got the same impression that I did, but all those titles that were on the screen seemed rather pretentious to me, like 65 million years ago, man crash landed on Earth. I'm going, yeah, we kind of figured that out. We don't need you to tell us.
So I know you guys are crapping on this movie, so I'm going to defend it here. So
Oh gosh.
what I was gauging from this film is that everyone who was initially excited for this film pretty much thought, like Rob did, that this was going to be like some Jurassic Park epic sci-fi thriller, right? And this essentially wasn't that film. I think the biggest problem that this film has is that it marketed itself in a completely wrong direction. Because while everyone was expecting this to be a sci-fi film, what this really turned out to be was a very bare bones, minimalistic, kind of just like a film about family, essentially. I mean, that's really what you're looking at here. Because throughout the course of this entire film, there's only 4 characters that you see throughout the entire movie. It's Adam Driver, his daughter, the little girl from the ship, and then the woman who plays his wife in the very, very beginning, right? So you're asking, why would he not bring back the wife? Why would you kill off, the daughter halfway during the movie? The daughter was only really established to present, I guess, the bonding experience between him and Koa, right? Because when he crash lands, he tells everyone that, there's no way that you guys are going to save me. Don't even bother to come for me. And he's about to kill himself, right? Like, he's really about to take the shotgun and, like, blow his own brains out because he's on a planet by himself. He knows he's not going to survive. And it's only until he realizes that there's other people that crashed who are still alive that he tries to, save the little girl. So, in his mind, the character motivation that they were going for is that, well, he already lost his daughter, but there's also another little girl who's here who's still alive. So, that's now going to give him motivation to try to, like, save her and get them both, off the island and whatnot. So the entire relationship of the film only works between the chemistry that Adam Driver has with this little girl who's Ariana Greenblatt, is her name. So I was looking at it from a character perspective because I like very minimalist films. I like films that are more driven on character. So looking at it from that perspective, I actually enjoyed it quite a lot from what they were doing here. Like I said, you go into the point where it's like they're struggling because they can't speak the same language, which I thought that they were going to correct later on during the film, and I felt like they were leaning towards that, but then they kind of like something got cut out, or maybe they just like dropped it towards the third act, which I think was a mistake. But there was something that they were building towards at one point, and then you're getting to a point where, while I think the bigger like CGI characters, like the big dinosaurs, didn't look too great, I think a lot of the little details they did get was pretty impressive for a film of this budget. Even though $45 million doesn't seem like a small budget film these days, but compared to like your typical Disney movies, it's actually a pretty small budget in comparison. So they had to like figure, okay, what would the insects look like in 65 million years ago? What would like the little bugs like look like, and how would they interact with like humans, right? So they did, I think, they did a pretty good job of at least displaying like some of like the problems that they were running into dealing with the ecosystem of this planet 65 million years ago, before the rock hit it, and humans would one day go on to inhabit and things of that nature. So I liked a lot of the little details, and that's why it stayed pretty well with me. I think another thing that hurt it, honestly, was the runtime. I think people were expecting a little bit of a longer movie, so when you go into this and you tell people, people, oh, it's only like 95 minutes long. That's pretty much how long the film is. They feel like you're getting cheated because it's like, well, I'm thinking that we're going to get this big, epic action movie, but you're telling me it's like 95 minutes long. So it's like you have to understand that going into this movie isn't exactly what you thought it was heading into it. Um, there was one point that I wanted to make here. I mean, like I said, I think the biggest disconnect here is that if you're expecting a sci-fi, it's going to be a letdown for you, especially since they premiered this trailer like during the Super Bowl. I think that's where a lot of people like really started getting like hyped up about it, and then it kind of flattened out once you realize it's not really as much as a sci-fi epic, it's more than it's just father-daughter survival film. But as far as that goes, I like the chemistry between the two actors. I like how they interacted with the world around them. I think the two scenes of like real tension that happened was like obviously the ending and like the one before with like the little small, I guess you could call them velociraptors. Even though this movie tried very very hard not to rip off Jurassic Park directly, so they did have to make some kind of changes to like the dinosaurs so they didn't get like sued by like Steven Spielberg or something like that. But yeah, I mean, for me, look at it from a character perspective. Look at it from the very small detail. There's a lot of that I actually did admire about this film. And honestly, out of the three movies that I watched this weekend, this is the best movie of the three for me. I know you guys have different opinions, but for me, I would give this film a 3.5 out of 5. And I would say if you go into it with temperate expectations, you might actually find yourself enjoying this movie more times than not. So I give it a 3.5 out of 5. Rob, what would you give it? Because you're the one who reviewed it.
Yeah, no. Well, I would also say that there's a couple of jump scares in there.
Yeah.
It's a very loud movie. Like it definitely seems like they definitely put the money into perhaps the sound department, whatever. But because I definitely felt like that was they made an effort to have the sound be effective and have that movie going experience at least be impactful where the whatever it is, the T-Rex is behind Adam Driver in the mouth of the cave, with the thunder going on and the
trailer shot.
Yeah. So I mean there's some of that stuff that like that made the most impact for me, but I just never felt invested in the movie or the characters or what was going on. I do agree that like kind of stepping back and looking at it as a whole, it is kind of a minimalist survival movie. And it was written by the guys who did A Quiet Place. So I really liked A Quiet Place. I liked, for instance, like the sacrifice of John Krasinski's character in that movie, and that it's about family and all of that. I just did not feel that towards this movie. So maybe on a second watch, it'll be different for me, but I would give it a 1.5 out of 5. Just because I don't feel like there's too much there, and then what is there isn't well executed. So,
well, one thing I was saying before I let Rick go on, it's like it feels like this film was sort of setting up for like a sequel if it was a big hit, because obviously you want to ask the elephant in the room. It's like where do these people come from that they live on a planet with all this modernized technology 65 million years ago in the past, right? And I felt like they kind of left the door open for them to further explain that in another movie, but I don't think they're going to get the returns in this film to warrant that one. So this misstep on their behalf. Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, that would be season 2 of a TV show that I've never seen.
Yeah,
because this felt like season 1 or like the highlights, like the best of. I disagree with you, Jacob, on the idea that we needed the daughter to show Mills's paternal side. You could have done that with Koa or right away. Have them bond, kind of the same way that Ripley and Newt bonded emotionally in Aliens. I mean, so for me, I reject that. I can forgive the fact that it's short, and I think the length is actually one of its saving graces, because I don't think I could have tolerated more. I don't think I could have tolerated 2 hours or 2.5 hours of this. I'm going to give this maybe a 1 out of 5. I appreciate what they were going for, and I give them credit for trying something slightly different, but it didn't work for me. I can give credit to the fact that Adam Driver's character constantly was getting injured in realistic manners, and sometimes it was painful to watch him try to like pop the arm back in.
Yeah,
And
the Mel
there was
Gibson move.
yeah, and there was Rob is right. There was at least one effective jump scare when he's looking down at the waterfall and the little small dinosaur pops up. That did make me jump. I was not expecting that, so I give them credit for that. But by and large, it's just not good. I just imagine that it's going to be playing on like FX or FXX, and it's going to run 2 hours. It's going to be booked 2 hours because it can slip in the commercials in that short running time. So no, this isn't a good movie. I think it's sad that Adam Driver, who I think is talented, has to kind of go through this in order to keep a career going. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a one, maybe a 1.5 if I'm generous, but definitely probably out of the two that I saw, this would be the worst one.
Oh, okay. You only saw two.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was gonna get on you about that statement, and I realized that I don't think any of you guys have seen our final movie of the night, right? So, well, let me lead you guys onto a journey that I like to call Scream Six. And what's the best way to start this whole thing off? So, this movie, Scream 5, came out last year. I saw it. I think it came out like back in January or February. No, it was very early in the year last year, around the same time here. And for about a good 4 or 5 months, that was my worst film of the year until we started watching like the really bad films that came out later on that year. But it still ended up being in the top five when it was all said and done. So essentially, what they've done with Scream is that, okay, we want to do a Scream movie, but here's the problem. All of the original characters from Scream are not diverse enough, and we need to up that diversity and inclusion initiative that we have here at Paramount Pictures. So, you know what? We're going to kill off Dewey. We're going to get rid of David Arquette. We're going to lowball Neve Campbell and get her out of the franchise altogether, so that the only OG character you have left is Courtney Cox, who's now dating a black guy in this film. I'll get to that in a second. So we got rid of all the original characters, and now we're going to put in what is literally straight up diverse counterparts of the original characters. So now in this whole series, you have the daughter of Billy Loomis, who, if you guys remember, was the original killer in the original Scream movie, the guy, Neb's boyfriend, or Sydney's boyfriend in the film. He now has an illegitimate Mexican daughter who is now the new franchise character. Like, she's basically the new Sydney. She plays Sam Carpenter. In the last movies she was in, turns out that, you know, her boyfriend was the killer, just like Sydney. So it's like literally the exact same thing. And it wasn't very hard to figure out that he was the killer because he was the only let's say, person of color in the film who wasn't gay. So based on that reasoning, it was pretty easy to say where it was going to go. Jamie Kennedy's character in the first film, they have in these two movies, he has now biracial nieces and nephews. And like one of them is obviously gay, so she's like basically playing his character to a T, except for she's like a biracial lesbian. And then you have Cuba Gooding Jr.'s son, who's playing the other one, who's kind of like the jock, at least in the first movie. Everything sounds awfully horrible, right? So the reason why this film is getting a bigger push now is because somewhere in the last year, Jenny Ortega has apparently become like the new it girl in Hollywood. I don't know where the hell this came from, but off the backs of this movie and Wednesday, it's like everyone's all in on Jenny Ortega. The only thing I know about Jenny Ortega is that apparently a few years ago, she did this Disney Channel show. I don't remember the name of it. You guys can look it up. But she was on the show with another teen actress called Ronnie Hawk. And apparently Ronnie Hawk got ousted as a Trump supporter. So Jenny Ortega was like the main one that pretty much threw her co-star under the bus, saying that, you know, she supports Trump and that she hates Mexicans and then she's not a real Mexican and all this whole thing. So everyone completely took her side and ruined the other girl's career. So now she's the new Hollywood it girl. So that's just the way Hollywood works now, people. So like I said, everything, all that I mentioned happened. And now we're here with Scream 6. Which is, I guess, now they're moving to New York City. So that's the big draw of the movie. It's like, now we're going to do a Scream movie in a big city. And it's like, okay, it's in New York City. It's like the crime rate is already bad enough to where if somebody were to get stabbed up at a subway, it wouldn't even make the news for like longer than 2 minutes. Like, it'll be like a Passover, just the way that New York City is. But The setup here is that there's these two guys who worship the Stab franchise, which is the parody franchise within the movie. By the way, that was the other thing I forgot to mention. In Scream 5, it turns out that the villains of the film were toxic fan bases. So they were literally lampooning people who didn't like The Last Jedi and saying that they were the villains of the last film. So we're continuing that here with this film with two toxic guys who are all about the Stab franchise, and then they kill someone and then they end up getting killed later themselves. So there's actually two killers in like the first like 5 minutes of this film. And they're not even joking here. So everyone is in New York now. I don't even remember where they were in the first movie, but everyone's in New York City. They're at this party, and come to find out, it's like, oh yeah, there's a new Stab killer, and he's coming after you, Sam, because of your relation to Billy Loomis, who, like I said, this girl's not even like half Mexican. She's like full on Mexican, but you're supposed to believe that Billy Loomis, who was with Sydney at the time, somehow birthed a daughter with some other Mexican woman that we never saw in the course of the film. So let that be what it is. So, well, like we're doing the whole rundown again. It's like, hey, here's the core 4 diversity characters, and here's all the new sprinkled characters lined up here. So let's try to figure out who the killer is this time. And I sat there. It was probably about 20 minutes in, and I thought to myself, it's going to be the white people again, right? Like, we're going to do this again. Like, I was literally waiting the entire film. It's like, there's no way you're going to do this 2 years in a row. There has to be some kind of twist. Someone's going to turn heel. Like, you can't possibly be this predictable 2 years in a row. Spoiler alert, the white people are the killers again. So, I know I just blew a whole a film for you guys there. I know you're a little spoiler alert, but it's not hard to figure out the white people are the killers. Turns out, and this is where it gets really dumb, Sam, the new Sydney, Sam, her boyfriend in the last film who went evil and tried to kill her, she killed him, and then come to find out that the killers in this movie is his family. So his father and his brother and his sister are the killers. Somehow Sam did not know that her boyfriend from the first movie didn't know her father, didn't know her sister, didn't know her brother, because it was like, it could have taken like literally 5 seconds to be like, hey, aren't you guys the family of my boyfriend who tried to kill me like a couple months ago? So that's literally the whole setup to this entire film, is that Sam somehow never met the family of the guy that she was dating for God knows how long. And because of that, they used that against her to do this whole ruse where they're killing people all across New York City.
You know, I was about to say, spoilers don't really bother me because good movies can survive, knowing what happens. It's still engaging, it's still worth watching, even if you know what's going to happen. What you just said made me so angry that I already hate this fucking movie and I haven't seen it yet. So the idea that the family members would not be suspects right away is kind of like, are you fucking kidding me? It's like, gee, who has something to gain by this? Maybe the people related to the people who were the killers in the last movie. Gee.
So here's the thing. They don't even reveal that these people are the family members of her boyfriend until the very end of the movie. So she goes through the entire movie having no idea who any of these people are. The sister literally becomes her roommate, and her father works for the PD. And she has no idea who any of these people are. The brother then comes in later on. He pretends like he doesn't know any of them, but obviously they're all in on it at the same time. And I'm like, really? There was no indication whatsoever that you had no idea who these people were. And like I said, you're supposed to believe that you were in such a deep relationship with your boyfriend in the last film. You didn't know. There was no pictures of his family that he ever showed you. I mean, I can understand that maybe not meeting his family, but really you just didn't know none of these people exist. And that's what we're supposed to believe for, what was this, like a 2-hour movie? Yeah, this is a 2-hour film.
In this world, shouldn't she know at least some of the friends of her boyfriend, and at least know that, oh, he has a sister and a brother and a father? It's I mean, I know, for example, that if I dated someone, I would know, like, I would know of their relatives. It would just seem strange that she didn't.
Yeah. Like, you don't, when you date someone, you don't ask them, hey, where's your parents? Do you have any siblings? There are little questions like that. Apparently, this chick completely oblivious because she's too busy talking to Billy Loomis in her head throughout the entire movie. So
is it that the characters themselves are incredibly stupid, and that's what the movie is saying? or are they just like complete narcissists where they're so self-involved that they don't care to ask about their significant other's family members? But
I
it's
think
like, so what's the movie saying? Which one?
I think they tried to make a clever twist with this film, clever, quote unquote, but it's like the twist that you guys revealed makes your character seem like a complete fucking idiot. Because it's like there's no way she couldn't possibly have known who these people were.
Yeah.
Well, this kind of makes me think of my number one golden rule of filmmaking, which is something will happen if the plot requires it to. But this is really the low end.
Yeah.
If you have to go through all of this to make the plot go forward, then your plot is already bad, and there's no point. And again, somebody pointed this out on Twitter. They said that about the villains. I think they mentioned that the villains were the white people. It's like, are you ever going to have like a movie where like at least the gay character is evil? Are they always going to be good? Same with the minorities. That's kind of racist and homophobic as well. To suggest that there's
Right.
no
I
diversity.
mean, we've done this with 2 movies now. So now if they do another one, all we have to be like, okay, whoever the white person is who's not gay is the killer. We don't have to watch the rest of the movie. We can figure it out in 10 minutes.
And then, yeah, just wait to see how he or she is revealed.
So a couple of things here. One, Hayden Panettiere, they brought her back in this film, and she looks rough. Like, she looks bad. I had to like Google just how old she is. I think she's only like 33 if I'm not mistaken, but she looks like, I said it on the other review show, she looks like the 50-year-old grandma that you see in Las Vegas, smoking, playing the high roller slots. Like, that's what she looks like. She has this wig on, which is so bad throughout the course of the film. I was like, okay, so we're not even gonna put anything into like why she's wearing this terrible wig to begin with, but she's just another character. Be like, well, she was in one Scream movie, so I guess we can bring her back. And then on top of that, you bring in Courtney Cox to play Gail again, and it's just like Gail's just right back to being a reporter again for like the 6th consecutive movie, and it's like, okay, move on with Gail. There's really no reason that you lowballed Nev Campbell, but you brought back Courtney Cox. It's like, why? How does that make any sense whatsoever? And then we get to the biracial Wonder Twins, which I'm not even making this up. Throughout the course of the 2 films, the Scream 5 and then this movie, they have been stabbed so many times, like ridiculously so many times. They should not have survived at any point of these 2 movies. I think it's like the running joke is that they're constantly being stabbed up multiple times, but because they're the biracial super twins, they keep surviving towards the end of the movie. So Cuba Gooding Jr.'s son was stabbed up like 50 times in Scream 5, and then at the ending of this movie, he was stabbed up again by 2 different killers this time. Like, they're literally like taking turns, like stabbing them with like a knife over and over again. Yeah, he somehow manages to survive at the end of the movie, so he can go ahead and give a kiss to Jenny Ortega, because that's the power couple that we're going with throughout the rest of this franchise. And then his sister, the Jamie Kennedy black lesbian counterpart there, she gets stabbed up on the train, like literally hours between the end of the movie to where she literally gets stabbed up like multiple times pretty hard. And at the end of the movie, she just comes back. Like, there's no like blood patch anywhere like near her chest where she was stabbed up multiple times. She just like, hey guys, I'm here. I can't believe that whole thing happens. Like, you should be in a hospital right now. No one who suffers major stab wounds just gets up and then walks down the street like nothing happened 3 hours ago. Like, this movie's not even trying to be clever. It's not even trying to be entertaining. It's woke. It's insulting. What was the line that I went through on Bounding? It said, "This is an asinine adventure of woke stupidity." Everything about this film is fucking stupid. Everything about this film is woke beyond belief. It's predictable. They don't put any thought into anything about this. It's like, hey, we got a new Scream movie, and then these idiots will go out there and watch it because it's Scream, and they haven't seen a Scream movie in a while. So that's the entire plot of this film. And then if I can bring up the picture right here, this is who they're going with throughout the course of, I guess, the next few years. These 4 chuckle fucks right here. So on the left, you have Billy Loomis's Mexican daughter, then Jenny Ortega here, and then here's the Wonder Twins over here. So, of course, she looks even more lesbian-y in this film than she did in the last film, because, we have to turn that up too. So I don't know what else to say about this film. I will say this, though. It's not worse than House Party because at least I actually sat through the ending and didn't leave like 15 minutes before the ending happened. But this is the second worst movie that I've seen so far this year. I'm giving this a straight up 0 out of 5. I'm not even giving it a half, nothing. Just 0 out of 5 for me.
I mean, I'm amazed that people who claim to love horror movies make this kind of contrived bullshit. First of all, that Halloween movie that we had to watch last year, and now that along with Scream 5, now along with Scream 6, it's like they're more interested in shoving their their ideological, dressing in your face than making something that you genuinely want to see or revisit. And that's the disappointing thing is like you're spending money making these so-called creative productions, and this is the result. I'll watch it. I'll do my due diligence. I'll do the work. I'll watch it. But God, I was hoping this was going to be a good movie. I was hoping that there at least be cool deaths. The fact that it's in New York City, at least have some interesting locations, and maybe not have insufferable characters like you did in Scream 5. Now, Scream 5 made a shitload of money. I think this will probably make a shitload of money, but it's like at some point, it's like I don't know. You'd have to pivot to something more interesting.
It's made $65 million so far on a $35 million budget, so they'll do another one guaranteed.
Yeah. But none of the original cast that kind of kept bringing people back are there anymore. So it's like it's a new generation of actors that aren't as talented, aren't as charismatic. And I'm not somebody who even likes the Scream franchise. I think the original Scream is a pretty overrated movie, even if I still think it's good. It gets really overpraised a lot, especially on Twitter. So but it's kind of a shame what's happened to it because it used to be at least kind of vaguely interesting.
I think I checked out after Scream 2, maybe Scream 3, but I honestly have no memories. I only remember that David Arquette. I wondered how he kept surviving because it's like the guy kept getting stabbed and shot and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
As for this, look, I can say in terms of casting, I don't know how talented these performers are. I've never seen Wednesday. I'm not familiar with Jenny Ortega. But just having minority actors or having a gay character, that doesn't make your movie good. That's not the right type of diversity because it doesn't give them any real personalities. It would be a positive if you had a minority be the killer, and I think minorities would actually like seeing themselves as the killers instead of
who's
just
the guy
victim.
who's the Indian guy, the one who was in Stuber, who was literally just complaining like a few months ago that he can't get any roles as yes, right. that guy. He was complaining that he can't get roles as villains anymore because Hollywood doesn't want to cast brown people as the bad guy in their films. And this is what you have here, this progressive storytelling. So now it's like, okay, I could just sit back 5 minutes in, I know exactly what's going to happen, and then I just wait for the rest of the movie to see if I was proven right or not. And it's like, oh, guess I was right again.
Like we talked about this last year with the whole oh hey, jokingly be like, oh, I bet the white guy's the bad guy, and the Glass Onion or the Knives Out movie, and it was like it came true. That's the fact that you can do that now says that I don't know. Movies are at an all-time low, and the respect that audiences have for them is at an all-time low as well.
Well, it's like I have to ask myself. It's like, do they realize that these movies now are like extremely predictable by their own ideology, or do they just not care? Like, do they generally believe that they're leading like audiences onto like this journey that's going to be like, oh my god, I didn't see that coming, or do they just don't care at this point?
No, I think they generally believe that what they're doing is something original and new, and because obviously you can't have minorities or gay people be the villains. I mean, they could possibly be the victims. I mean, but what was that? They slash them. I mean,
yeah,
you had them. Who ended up being the killer?
It was like it was supposed to be a slasher film, but there was no killing for like an hour and 10 minutes of the movie, and then like the last 10-15 minutes, it's like only the camp counselors die, and every single one of the LGBTQ people survived.
Yes, and here I mean, if you're trying to put, it's, I think it's because they want to say we want positive portrayals of minorities, but it's rather, but it sounds like it's very infantile because it's
Yep.
treating minorities and sexual minorities as well as children that can't be bad. There are evil,
So
there are evil gay people,
yeah.
and they're not evil because they're gay. There are evil Mexicans. I'm not one of them, but there are evil Mexicans, and there are evil black people. There are evil people of all varieties, because that's how they are. It has nothing to do with their race or their gender or their sexual orientation.
But in their minds, they worry it's like, oh, if somebody sees this movie and they see a black person is the bad guy, they're gonna think that all black people are bad just because of this one movie. It's like that's how these people think. Like they think you're that brain dead that you can't make the distinction.
Well, in fairness, I mean, we are getting Kang the Conqueror as the villain, so that's a step forward.
Yeah, but we're pushing him like that's a great thing. Like you should really see how many people he's gonna kill. It's gonna be awesome.
But in terms of Scream 6, why do we need so many Screams? I mean, just I think the first one I thought worked well, although I haven't seen it in probably since it came out. Same with Scream 2. After that, it's what is the point of all of these?
I know Scream 3 is like a complete blur to me at this point. Like I know there was like one killer in that film, but I don't remember anything from that movie at all.
Yeah, I really don't remember anything about. I barely remember Scream 2, if that. So, but all these people just, I guess they're addicted to seeing more and more of these films, but they've turned into parody. From the sound of it, they've turned it into absolute parody, but
Well,
people keep watching them. I don't know why.
well, Jacob saying some guy gets stabbed 50 times and he's still alive. Like these people who
Yeah.
keep getting stabbed or whatever, and it's like there you survive. That sounds like a parody. It sounds like Scary Movie.
Yeah,
That's what it sounds like. Scream has become. Like it's become a parody of itself. It is not even. It does not. It does not look anything like the original whatever 3 or 4 movies. I'll say this. I even like Scream 4. Scream 4, someone in the comments said this, is a lot of fun. Like just as a slasher movie, like I actually enjoy watching that. That's the one, I think the last one Hayden Panettiere was in. And she actually looks pretty good in that one, for what it's worth. But Emma Roberts is in that one, who I also like quite a bit. But that was the last good one, Scream 4.
well, the issue of the Wonder Twins, or whatever you want to call them, if they get repeatedly stabbed and then they survive, you're taking away the tension. You're taking away the sense of, oh my gosh, what if this person doesn't survive? Because you always know that they are going to survive. Kind of going a little bit off. It's the same if you have a character that you keep killing off, but you bring him or her back. After a while, when that character dies, you're not going to believe it. Here, you have the same issue. You keep stabbing these characters, or you keep trying, injuring them to the point where they should be dead, but they come back. So you're just waiting for it, and oh well, they'll be back. Why am I worried? Why am I going to have any suspense or any tension? Because there's none. You know what's going to happen. They're going to survive. Logic be damned. But again, something will happen if the plot requires it to.
Yeah, I'll spoil this little scene for you. This is the scene here where dude gets stabbed up. Keep in mind, this is literally the second time this has happened in the 2 movies before, because he got stabbed up pretty bad in the first movie and then somehow survives. This is the second time they've stabbed him for kicks and giggles. So. And he's fine.
Also, you should definitely keep standing there. Like,
yeah.
Here's the thing: the logic. If they're stabbing somebody else, that means you have time to run.
Mm-hmm.
They're not every second they're stabbing someone else. They're not stabbing you.
I mean, if you're not gonna go jump in there and try to save the guy, like what are you just standing there for? Like,
right.
Like why you have 2 options: either you're gonna try to save him or you're gonna get the fuck out of there. Like that's
Was the other girl part of the killer's plan? The one that's holding her back?
No. That was they were on the same team.
That's even more idiotic, because they could have run in there to attack these two, or they could have run away. They didn't have to be there. And why is the other one holding her back?
Because it's stupid, Rick. The whole movie's extremely stupid. Matter of fact, there was another scene which was really dumb. The Jenny Ortega chick. This is towards like the beginning of the film, like the first act. They were at like a college party, and like the whole thing was that they were trying to make some kind of social commentary about date rape. So she's at a college party, and they're drinking, and some drunk guy tries to like hit on her and like take her upstairs. Right? Now keep in mind, he's drunker than she is, but everyone's treating him like he's the predator, like he's trying to take advantage of a drunk girl, but he's drunker in the scene than she is. So it's like, wouldn't that be her taking advantage of him? Not the only way around, but of course, because the guys, the males are bad, he's the one who gets tasered in the nuts, and it's supposed to be funny because he should have known better than try to sleep with some chick while he was drunk at a party.
You know, we saw some of that in Promising Young Woman, and She Said,
Yeah.
where the guy was harassing Carrie Mulligan, and then in Promising Young Woman, where she pretends to be drunk because every guy's going to take advantage of her. And I asked, well, what would happen if in her plan, if a group of women came up to her to like rally her, or what if a guy literally just got her a taxi and sent her home, or what if a guy literally did decide to attack her and kill her? She's taking, I mean, the character was taking a ridiculous amount of risk, even if it won Best Original Screenplay.
It
Here,
was a shit movie. It was a
yeah,
complete shit
oh
movie.
yeah, it was in my
Yeah.
worst list. It was in my worst list. But here, you're showing us that scene where they're stabbing them, and like,
He
no,
survives.
and he survives, and that's even worse. As for the early scene that you were talking about, where they're both drunk, look, I think at that point, the problem when people drink is that their level of resistance goes down on both sides, and then the question of consent. It's not like either of them are in full control.
Mhm.
So it's debatable whether it could even be considered it could be considered an assault if both of them are in a poor condition to give consent. Especially if, well, again, the problem is that I'm assuming that the guy is probably taller and bigger. Men can tolerate more alcohol. I mean, I can't, because like
I mean,
two or three and I could be gone.
the
But
point of the scene is to sort of like kick dudes in the balls, though, and to basically be like, well, you should know better than being in that situation and basically assuming it was okay. And it's like it's okay, literally for you to be tased because you assume something you shouldn't have
Yeah.
assumed. It's like I don't know. It's just a very
You were trying to get
projected,
laid at a
weird-
party, so you deserve to get tased in the balls.
right? Like, okay.
yeah, but it's kind of infantile. Again, I'm bothered by the idea that if you have minority characters or minorities, that somehow they are so noble and pure that they can't possibly be evil. No, no,
Right,
no, no,
which
no.
if you think about it, and I know you touched on this to some degree with not being a villain or whatever, but it's like you're infantilizing these people based on their sexual orientation, based on their race, and it's like human beings are human beings. One of my favorite quotes from a modern movie is in Batman Begins. It's like people have the capability of doing great or terrible things. That is true for every single human being. And that is what connects us. We are all human beings, regardless of race or gender or sexual orientation. And people that try to push this, minorities are angels that can do no wrong. I mean, it's just completely ridiculous to anybody that knows anything about human nature.
Oh yeah, and it's unfair to minorities to kind of say, oh well, they can never be aggressive, or they can never be evil, or they could never be the masterminds. When we get a movie like maybe Scream 12, when the minority is the actual villain, that would be a step forward, I think, because finally we'll be getting proper representation in the hallmarks of evil.
This woman's 33 years old. I just wanted to focus on that for a minute. It's a hard 33-year-old. I'm just putting it out there.
I
Anybody
will
remember Heroes?
Yeah.
yeah.
It was
I-
all downhill from there.
Yeah.
Well, it was downhill after season one. But
Yep.
I will cut Hayden Panettiere some slack. I think her brother recently died.
Yep.
So yeah, so it might be some of that might be stress related, and I can imagine it would be a very stressful situation, especially her brother was younger than she was. So yeah, I give her a little leeway.
I mean, from people who have been in Hollywood that have said for years that she's had it pretty rough. I mean, she's one of the women who even though it hasn't been like outright confirmed, like she's dealt with sexual abuse in the Hollywood, and then obviously that led to like a lot of drug issues and personal issues too. So she's had a long, rough road as far as that goes as well. Yeah. By the way, this is the daughter of Billy Loomis from the first movie.
She looks like a
White
white chick
guy.
to me, so I don't.
Well,
No.
does she have the same last name?
No.
Is she okay? So
Like I
I
said,
mean,
she's supposed to be the bastard daughter of Billy Loomis in the film. So,
she's a love child never meant to be.
yep. So that's how she is. And then, by the way, Courtney Cox, who's also in this film too, she's younger than Madonna, but she's getting to the point where she doesn't look that much better than Madonna at all. Like she's starting to get like that skeleton face because she's had like so much plastic surgery at this point. It's like it's not a good look.
There's an article that came out recently that says she wish she didn't get it because it's you keep it's like it's an insecurity that you keep going back to the well. It's like, oh, it's just a little bit. Oh, it's just a little bit, and then you wind up with how her face looks now.
Yeah,
Well,
like
what?
whatever that is.
Yep.
But again, why is she in here? Why is her character here as well? So tied
So
between things.
the only reason why she's in this film is to establish that she's still a reporter after all of these years because she hasn't retired or moved on in any capacity over 6 Scream films. She was dating a black guy until he got stabbed up and died, and then she got stabbed, but she survived. So I'm assuming she's going to be in the next film as well. There's a lot of people who got stabbed the fuck up in this movie who are still alive for no reason whatsoever, especially in a slasher movie, but. That's the quality writing we get.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can assure you. I mean, I know Rob is going to go and see it. I'm not because I haven't seen anything really since 2, maybe 3.
Oh, I'm
But
not gonna go see it, but I will see it.
Yeah. No, I can give you I can give you the pirate link to it.
I didn't hear that at all. I didn't hear that. No comprendo. No hablo inglés. So I would just okay. Rob's going to see it. I'll
Yep.
put it that way. That is correct. That is accurate.
Mhm.
My statement is accurate. Rob is going to see it. I wish you well, Rob, but I'm not. I've never seen the interest of the Scream franchise. I mean, I think the last one was one where Jada Pinkett Smith gets stabbed, right?
The second one.
That's the
Yeah, that's the
second
second
one.
one. Yeah, I think that's the last one I saw, and that's the last I really have any interest in. But hey, the people enjoy seeing these movies for some reason, and it'd be interesting to ask the people who come out and enjoy this film, and ask them what is it about it that you enjoyed. Do you enjoy the fact that there's no suspense, there's no tension, and you know who the villains are going to be right off the bat, so you don't even have to bother to think, and you enjoy seeing people stabbed because you know that they're going to come back. So I'm just curious as to why people spend their, I'm assuming their hard-earned money, uh, going to see these films. I'm just perplexed. I mean, I'm not big on the 2 films that we saw, but I would rather see them go, rather have them see those,
You know
especially
what's funny is
champions.
they probably spent more on marketing. All the marketing for like the whole Scream in New York City stuff. They've been doing that for the last 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, and by the way, just real quick, the whole thing of we're in New York now, it really doesn't play any. They don't take any advantage of being in New York. There's one scene where the guys chase him in a bodega, and then one of the guys gets shot, and then that was kind of a thing. And then in the third act, there's this like weird scene where they're all like in a train together, and then like the killer's on the train with them, and that's when one of the Wonder Twins gets stabbed up, and she survives later on. So it's like that's really the only like taste of New York you get throughout this entire film. It's like they could have done this in like Utah. It wouldn't have changed anything.
Yeah, and so I I think they put more money into the marketing. And look, it's an established franchise. It's a slasher movie. Sometimes that's enough. Look how much the new Halloween movie made that last year. I mean, on opening weekend at least.
Yeah.
It just people don't need a huge reason to go to the theater, especially when it's established pattern of you're going to be able to put butts in seats because there's enough in that package to kind of sell it to people to get them to go. So it made what 45 million over this weekend, and like you said, I think you said it made another 20.
Yeah.
So it's going to do fine. They'll keep making them, but whatever heart and soul existed in the franchise is gone.
It's been gone since Wes Craven died. And
Exactly.
These are all these films are post Wes too. So there you go.
Well, yeah. If people keep going to them, then the people are going to keep making them. It's until the audiences say, no, we want something original, or at least something that is different. But I guess audiences just like seeing the same thing. I can't speak as to how well it is with the franchise, because I don't know if it was even intended to be a franchise. It just kind of came about, and now it's become parody. But hey, if people enjoy going to do that and to spend their money, we certainly can't stop them. But I just wonder why they would want to sit through all this over and over and over again. What kind of pleasure do they get out of it?
This is a film series for very low IQ people. So
Yeah.
that's the draw here for them. So. We've reached the end of this show. We did three. I think we all kind of argued about whether these films were good or bad or not, but I don't think anyone can argue that Scream 6 is a huge pile of shit. So, like I said, it's better than 80 for Brady, but
That's a low bar. That's a low
yeah,
bar.
it's a very low bar.
And maybe
So-
I said this when Rick was reviewing it, or I said it on Twitter, but 80 for Brady almost feels like something created by an advertising firm or something, where it's like, hey, we've got this, we need to create a movie idea, and Tom Brady's the center of it. And,
Yeah.
of the story idea anyway. And so, but that's what it seems like. It seems like a bunch of cameos and like a road trip hijinks movie, but
It felt like to me, Tom Brady said, "Well, LeBron James is doing movies, so why should I?"
Yeah, I'm more with Jacob on that.
here's the thing: invest. Like, be a producer on something. Don't make terrible like creative decisions with your money, Tom. Please.
Well, I don't think Tom is going to be investing money into remaking Howard Zend or anything like that. It's not like he's going to go all Merchant Ivory on us. I think he's just going, he's going to do something that is going to be profitable, and that is going to move his brand, and that is going to celebrate his genius.
Yeah, so Scream 6 is the worst movie this year that didn't feature a billionaire athlete. So there you go.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not seeing it. I really am having a hard time thinking anything that would be worse than seeing of 42-year-old dry hump a 56-year-old Madame Pinot. So that for me
Yeah.
is still the worst movie I've seen.
I don't know if you want to play this. Is that actually the name of the film? Yes. Wow. Okay. Well, we can't play because I know Disney's going to claim it, but I do want to show this right before we head out of here. Apparently, Disney is hyping up their new series, which is literally called American Born Chinese. So we're still pandering to China after all this time. Like, we're still doing it.
Well, I think American Born Chinese was a graphic novel. I think I remember reading it for my graphic novel class. And it does touch on that. I think it touches on this.
I mean, it looks like it's going to be Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon again. So,
is that Academy Award winner Michelle Yeoh?
uh-huh.
So there you go. And I pointed this out on Twitter. The Mummy Tomb of the Dragonberg can boast 2 Academy Award winners in its promotion from now on.
Yeah, I've never seen it because I thought it looked terrible when it came out.
Hey, Encino Man can also boast 2 Academy Award winners.
I actually have a soft spot for like what is like those Pauly Shore movies from the '90s. Like what is it, Jury Duty, and In the Army, and
Biodome.
Son-in-Law, and
I
hey,
don't know, man.
TBS, man.
Back in the
TBS
good
is
old
no
days, right?
TCM. TBS is no TCM.
I
We'll
know.
put it that way.
All right, well, let's go ahead and wrap this show up. So, get you guys coming up later on this week. I'll start with you, Rob. This time around, what you got coming up?
Yeah, I don't know. I am, as always, just trying to watch movies. I have not done some writing in quite some time, so I will try to get something out this week, but I'm still kind of getting back to normal from being sick. I know that excuse is running out, but yeah, we'll get some writing out. I'm just gonna keep watching movies. I'm always active on my Twitter, so that is at the bottom of the screen. Um, that's it. Just check out my Twitter.
All right, and move on to Rick. What you got?
Yeah, I'm going to be really working to get the reviews done. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Just writing my reviews, and yeah, that's it.
That was riveting.
You always want me to be brief, and I give you something brief.
Oh, now you want to talk less? Okay, yeah, sure,
Yes.
great. Whatever. Tomorrow night, episode 39 of the Barroom Podcast. We're going to talk about Tom Cruise and Top Gun Maverick being shunned from Hollywood. Colin Kaepernick goes after his white adopted family. Jane Fonda calls for the death of anyone who's pro-life. Seth Rogen complains about film criticism, and then Brie Larson is torpedoing her own movie before it even comes out. We're going to talk about all of that tomorrow. Wednesday, Black Pill stream on Bounding in the Comics YouTube. And then next week, we'll be doing Shazam 2, which is the movie that everyone is saying is terrible before it comes out for some reason. And then I think if Rob is still healthy, we'll see if he can make it there. We still owe the retrospective of The Nice Guys, because we didn't get to do it a few weeks ago when I wanted to. So we'll have to throw that in there as well. So that's what we all got coming up here on the show. Thanks to everyone who joined us tonight. I know a few people were in and out with us. DK, JEC, Duke Nukem, Alex vs. Evil. Cassie was here for a bit with us. Was it 6079 Smith was here throughout the course of the show. So everyone who joined us, thank you for joining us here tonight. Hopefully we guys see you tomorrow night for the bar room. We're going to hit our outro and get out of here. So good night, everyone. Go away. See you later.